Hi, welcome to my channel, The Magic of Math. Today I want to review recognizing fractions on a calculator. So often, once I let my students, probably about midway through grade 7, start using a calculator, they start coming up with crazy decimals and they forget what they know about fractions. So fractions are not these scary numbers. And I want to show you a couple of tricks as to how you could recognize what they are and look back at your work to understand how to appropriately answer a question mathematically. So here we go. So first I want to start with, did you know what equals 1/3? So 0.3 repeating, notice that I have infinite amount of dots. That dot, dot, dot means it's going to extend infinitely, and that this is what we call a non-terminating decimal, meaning the decimal does not ever end. The 3 goes on forever. The digit repeats and repeats and repeats. So you could write on a million sheets of paper, a million 3s, and never be done. 1/3 is what we call a repeating decimal, and it does not terminate, it does not stop. So therefore, when you go to answer to the solution, let's say to an equation, you have to answer 1/3. You cannot answer the 0.3333 because you couldn't write enough of the digits down. Now there is that repeating bar, and I'll show you later on in the video why that is still not the best way to answer the solution to an equation. So any decimal answer on a calculator can be written as a fraction because any division problem of whole numbers or integers is a fraction. Did you know that 5/6 is 5 divided by 6? So if you're putting into your calculator 5 divided by 6 and you get this crazy decimal, which on a calculator it looks like it ends, but it doesn't. This is actually a non-terminating decimal, and the calculator just stops it at whatever its screen can hold for numbers. But this is really a repeating decimal with an infinite amount of 3s. So to say that it's 0.83 is not exact. It does not represent 5/6. If you put 0.83 in for that number, it is not equivalent. It's close, but it's not equal. So I challenge you to think about when you enter 5 divided by 6 into a calculator, you're entering a fraction 5/6. 5/6 is 5 divided by 6. So why not just answer 5/6? There's no reason to grab a calculator and do the math and have it divide for you because you have the answer right here before your eyes. 5/6 is 5 divided by 6. So I would argue that to go to your calculator and put that in there is a totally extra step that's not necessary. So a terminating decimal is accurate and it is okay. If you plug in 7 divided by 8 into your calculator, you're going to get a terminating decimal, meaning it ends. You get 0.875. These are equivalent. So 7/8 is equal to the decimal 0.875. You need all 3 decimal places. You need all of these digits. You cannot round it. You cannot say 0.88 or 0.9. You've rounded it and you've changed the value and it's not equal to 7/8. But remember, 7/8 is 7 divided by 8. So if you get a decimal that terminates, it ends, you can write that down, that decimal, but you have to write all the digits that are given to you in the calculator. Did you know that 1/3 does not equal 0.3? So many students think that because the 3 repeats, that they only need 1. But 0.3 is actually 3/10. And 3/10, remember this decimal place is the 10th digit. So you could rewrite 0.3 as 3/10. Well, 3/10 is not equivalent to 1/3. So just remember that when you get those repeating digits in your calculator, you cannot eliminate any of them. So here's an example with an equation, and we do not want to round solutions to equations because when we would go back and check our work, it would not be an accurate representation. So let's solve this. To solve this equation, we want to use inverse operations. So we're going to divide both sides by 7. So then I have to do this math. 1 divided by 7. So if you go to your calculator and you type in 1 divided by 7, you get this long decimal. Now it appears to my students that this decimal terminates, that it ends at this 5, but it doesn't. It's actually a non-terminating decimal. Plus, even if it did, who wants to enter all of these digits? So what am I going to do? Students get stuck. They're like, well, what's my answer? Well, what's wrong with 1 over 7? 1/7 is 1 divided by 7. So whatever you have up in your calculator right here, that's your fraction. That's your answer. So you just need to answer 1/7. So now let's go back to solving this equation. Divide both sides by 8. So I'm going to do this math. I can answer 5/8, but if I do 5 divided by 8 in my calculator, I get 0.625 or 625 thousandths. So because it terminates, as long as I answer with all 3 decimal places, I'm good. Because if I plug this back in and do 8 multiplied by 0.625, I'm going to get 5. So let's check this out. This is what I mean by checking. I have the equation 3x equals 1. To solve, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and then I have this 1 divided by 3, or 1/3. So if I go to my calculator, 1 divided by 3 is 0.3. Again, this calculator makes it look like it only has this many digits, but this is non-terminating. It's going to go on forever. So a lot of my students want to say, okay, my answer is 0.3. But if I go back and check and say 3 times x, and I say that x is 0.3, 3 times 0.3 or 3/10 is equal to 0.9 or 9/10. That is not 1. Remember, our original equation was 3x equals 1. Well, 0.9 or 9/10 is not 1. It's close, but close isn't good enough. We want an exact answer, so you cannot use that. You want to answer 1/3. Okay? So I caution you as you go through this to be careful with your decimals. And what do? Think about what you typed into the calculator. What you typed into the calculator is your answer. That's your fraction. So 5 divided by 3 gives you a repeating decimal, 5/3. And just noting on this that the calculator actually rounded that last number. So calculators are just a tool, but they don't know everything. You actually could be smarter than a calculator. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave a comment.